and thank you for joining us for another installment of California Employment News, an informative video and podcast series brought to you by the labor employment attorneys at Weintraub Tobin. My name is Beth West, and I'm a partner in the Labor and Employment Department, and I'm joined today by my partner, Talia Delanoy. In today's episode, Talia and I are going to give a brief overview of some of the risks and benefits involved when employers use PEOs and staffing agencies. We'll explain the types of services these companies provide and also discuss the risk of joint employer liability and why it's so important to understand the terms and conditions of the service agreement you enter into when contracting with these types of providers. To get us started, let me just briefly explain what a PEO and a staffing agency do. The acronym PEO stands for Professional Employer Organization. A PEO is a company that enters into a co employer relationship with a contracting business to handle things like payroll, benefits, tax filings, workers' compensation, and some HR compliance for the contracting business's workforce. The contracting business then keeps control over the day to day supervision and management of its employees. The PEO will usually charge the contracting business a percentage of payroll or a per employee per month fee for its services. A staffing agency is a company that recruits, screens, and supplies workers to another company. They can provide temporary workers, contract workers, or even regular permanent workers to the contracting company. When providing temporary workers and contract workers to the contracting company, the staffing agency remains the employer of record for its placed workers. The staffing agency will usually charge a markup rate when placing temporary or contract workers, and when it places permanent workers at a company, the staffing agency often charges a percentage of the employee's first year of compensation. Taya, why don't you take it from here and explain the legal risks of joint employer liability and the importance of the terms and conditions of the service agreements with these types of businesses?
Thanks, Beth. So, when negotiating a PEO and staffing agency contract, it's important to understand that because the client employer, you, the one executing the contract, still directs the work and maintains control over the working conditions of the people staffed at the work location, courts and regulators generally view both entities as employers for many legal purposes, meaning you as the client employer and this PEO or the staffing agency. Thus, both the client employer and the PEO or staffing agency may be legally responsible for compliance with wage and hour laws, workplace safety requirements, and anti discrimination obligations. So, it's very important to have strong indemnity language in these contracts to ensure an appropriate shift of financial liability should you, as the employer, ever get sued by any of the individuals placed at your location. For example, a staffing agency may agree to indemnify the client for claims arising from payroll errors, tax withholding mistakes, or failure to provide required benefits. But conversely, the client may indemnify the agency for claims stemming from workplace supervision, discrimination, harassment, safety violations, or unlawful instructions given to the worker. I'll turn it over to Beth, who will discuss some of the benefits and risks of working with a PEO.
Thanks, Talia. Some benefits of working with a PEO are that they can assist with HR functions like onboarding and administration and compliance with Form I-9, enrollment, payroll administration, personnel taxes, and providing and managing benefits like medical insurance and workers' compensation insurance. PEOs are often attractive to startups and small employers because the PEOs sometimes pool together their employees across many client companies they work with and provide access to better benefits at lower costs or even additional benefits that a startup or small employer could not provide. However, using a PEO is not a panacea for legal compliance. California employment laws are very comprehensive and very specific. And if the PEO gets it wrong, the contracting business, you, the employer, can still be liable as a co employer or joint employer, as Talia mentioned. For example, employers are still responsible and can be liable for violations of wage and hour laws, misclassification, timekeeping violations, meal and rest break violations, overtime, and so forth. They can still be liable for EEO law noncompliance, harassment, discrimination, retaliation going on in the workplace, failure to accommodate employees, failure to properly administer statutory leaves, and things like that. And then workers' compensation and safety laws as well. Um, we have one case that we give as an example where a contracting business was hit with over $1.3 million in penalties because its PEO was responsible under the contract to supply effective workers' compensation insurance, but in fact contracted with a defunct insurance company. And so there was no workers' comp insurance coverage, and the contracting business, the employer, was hit with those penalties. So the risk can't be overstated, and the joint employer liability is real in California. Talia, I'll turn it over to you so you can talk about the risks and benefits of using a staffing agency.
Sure. So, the benefits of using a staffing agency often involve, greater workforce flexibility, faster hiring and access to talent, reduced recruiting burden, payroll and administrative support, temporary to permanent hiring options if you want to test out someone before offering them a full-time job, shared compliance responsibilities in that you're managing the day-to-day functions of these individuals, whereas the staffing agency is managing the employer side and payroll, and also specialized labor market expertise to ensure that you're getting, quality labor in the area that you're searching for. But again, as noted, some of the risks are can be significant, including joint employer liability. So you share liability with the staffing agency for employment concerns, wage and hour compliance, misclassification risks if the staffing agency is not properly classifying the individual as, for example, exempt or non-exempt employee, workplace harassment and discrimination claims, safety liability, co-employment confusion, and to go back to my earlier points, contractual risk of indemnity provisions are weak. So you need to ensure that there's appropriate insurance in place for both you and the employees placed at your location, even if they're employed by the staffing agency or the PEO, and make sure that you have proof that the entity you're contracting with has sufficient insurance should those issues arise. There's obviously cost considerations. You're going to pay more per hour for someone that's placed with you through a staffing agency than through a direct hire. And workforce integration and morale, make sure that these individuals are being treated similarly to your regular direct hire employees. And there's often costs to convert the employee from a temp to a full time. That those costs are obviously not going to be present if you do direct hire. And there's some, inherent turnover and operational knowledge loss with a temporary employee versus someone that you're spending the time to train and move up. And so what I want to stress here is this is a very brief overview meant to just scratch the surface on this very complex issue. And so certainly if you have questions about this and want to talk in more detail, reach out to your trusted Weintraub attorney, and we're happy to walk you through that, review the contract for you, identify any gaps in the agreement, and any suggested revisions to make sure that you as the employer are protected on every front. And so that's it for this episode of the California Employment News. You can continue to find our video series and podcasts through thelawblog.com, the Weintraub Tobin YouTube channel, or wherever you listen to your favorite podcasts. Thanks everyone for joining us, and we look forward to connecting with you next time.